Hi everyone. I wanted to talk about something I was thinking about this afternoon. And after making my video about lying or honesty, and that is reasoning and how it relates actually to honesty. So, one of the things that always frustrated me once I discovered logical thinking and reasoning and rational thought, one of the things that really struck me was, well, if we have methods of reasoning and we have rational thought and we have logic, we have basically philosophical ventures, why are we still sort of where we are? Why haven't we gotten further as a society? And of course, I understand it has to do with the fact that most people aren't interested in those endeavors. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that most people are still not really capable of rational thought because of emotional reasons. They're wedded to certain ideas or dogmas, and no amount of rational thinking will sort of pull them out of that. And so I'm kind of reminded of some of the videos that I've seen recently of the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman trial. And while I'm not interested in getting into any kind of debates on the trial itself and the outcome, what I find quite instructive is the way people are reacting to it. And believe me, this has a linkage to presuppositional apologetics, which I will get to. So I've seen a lot of interviews and commentary by people who are sticking to one dogma or another at the obvious exclusion of a lot of data to the contrary, whatever their position is. And when pressed on it, they keep resorting to these emotional arguments. They just keep saying it louder and louder, as if that's somehow going to change the evidence that's before them. And it is a cognitive dissonance. They don't want to know. They don't want to hear that evidence. It kind of reminds me of the line from Vanilla Sky. I don't know how many of you have seen that, but towards the end they're on the rooftop, and the helper guy that was sort of with him when he was in the jail cell. I can't quite remember. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but it's sort of coming out that this is all a lucid dream that he's having, and the tech support guy is there, and he's sort of trying to help him understand that this is a lucid dream, and the other helper fellow there is kind of trying to say, well, I'm really here. And the tech support guy says, no, you're not here or whatever. And he goes, well, no, I have a wife, I've got kids, and he says, well, yeah, what are their names? And he gets this funny look on his face, and he goes, I'm real, right? It's very much the same thing, It's an emotional appeal and trying to push the evidence aside. And some of us are capable of rational thought, critical thinking. I'm not saying I'm one of them, but I think the goal is to try to be one, right? And one of the things that's concerned me about the presuppositional apologetic, and actually apologetics in general, is it'd be really nice if once an argument is debunked and it's been shown to be flawed for one reason or another, if people would just stop using it. Right, like the cosmological, the Kalam argument. It's been shown to be highly question begging, highly special pleading, and yet people still use it. Right, it's flawed from the get go. Heck, even Cy ten Bruggencate admits it's a bad argument, but people still use it all the time. And it would be nice if you could get people. I mean, that would really be progress if we could get people to abandon using arguments once they've been shown to be fallacious, flawed, unsubstantiated, or baseless. But it just doesn't happen. Now, some of us are capable of that. And on my video that I made earlier today about honesty, Gord M. responded. And I thought this was really great. He said, when I stumbled upon something that I realized was a lie, I made some inquiries of some older Christians and pastors. For the most part, they justified it as, it's traditional to do this. And it doesn't matter as long as Jesus is promoted. Realizing that these people were knowingly embracing a lie got me to investigating what else that they teach may be a lie. It was a significant step in my deconversion. So this is really critical. This is a person who followed the breadcrumb trail, followed and made some reasoning instead of explaining it away in their own mind, allowing that cognitive dissonance to create partitions, in the brain. And I'm really impressed with that. That's really fantastic. I never had to have any such deconversion. Now, that doesn't mean that I haven't changed my thought processes on different things over time with evidence and with rational thought and being corrected by other people once I've been shown an argument. But a deconversion, that's a pretty heavy-duty thing. I don't know how far Gord was into the faith, if it was an indoctrination type thing from childhood or what. But still, I think that's really impressive that someone would follow that evidence like that from such a deep position, deep-rooted position in faith like that. Really, really great. And if more people would do that, our world would be a far better place. As it relates to the presuppositional apologetic, obviously the reasoning is flawed, because in normal logical argumentation we don't get to make baseless assertions. We tend to have to back things up with evidence, and there's no evidence to be found there. Or what evidence is there is questionable or circular, and the whole concept of having a presupposition is an abandonment of reason, right? That's a complete abandonment of reason, and yet Psy is got his little costume on it to make it look like it's reasoning. I mean, if you watch any of his debates, the whole thing is as though it's a reasoned position, but really it's a logic puzzle masquerading as reason. It's designed. It's basically a one-way trap. It's designed to pull people in and not let them out. But because it's based on a presupposition, it's not reason at all. He just makes it. He's just got it masquerading as reason. Much the same as when you've got scientists, creation scientists, looking at evidence, but from a starting position, saying, well, we believe in a worldwide flood, so we're going to go check out the Grand Canyon from our presupposition. That's not science. Now, I understand that real science and the scientific method would start with a hypothesis, but the hypothesis in science generally comes from a cursory look at what it is you're going to be testing. So you might look at the Grand Canyon and get some ideas from looking at it, from other things that you've studied in the past, and say, well, I hypothesize that these geological events may have occurred, and so how can I falsify this? How can I test for this? And then you would go ahead and devise some tests and find out how you can go about gathering empirical evidence that would either debunk or qualify your hypothesis as a valid theory. And I understand that still scientists are human. They're going to have some sort of presuppositions, but it's far different than in the religious realm. And of course, as I've said in other videos, Psy likes to portray that everyone has presuppositions. It's very important for him to do that, because then he can say, we're all starting from here, and so, we're all starting from the same place. But the difference is, his presuppositions are absolute granite, rock solid. He will not move from that place. Whereas a scientist may have some preconceived notions, I think might be a better way to term it for a scientist, but he's always got to be looking in the rearview mirror, because that's the beauty of peer review and the beauty of the scientific method, is that if you come up with bullshit, if you make up evidence to try and fit your hypothesis to give yourself a wonderful little theory, someone's coming behind you and is going to debunk it, right? Because it's in their best interest too, and it's of course the perfect self-correcting part of the scientific method. Is science perfect? No, of course not. We're human beings. But the scientific method, I think, is the most honest approach to trying to reason about the world around us, and making at least an attempt at correct reasoning and ditching the presuppositions that hold us back from progress. I almost forgot one of the most important parts. Who is Lord over your reasoning? So when Cy talks to people who claim to have been former Christians, he, and he always comes up with this statement, those who have left us were never among us. He likes to ask, who was Lord over your reasoning? Because he'll say that if God was, if God was Lord over your reasoning, then you could not reason out of Christianity. And I suppose he's right. If you're going to hold staunchly to A as a presupposition, an a priori assumption, and that is the basis and bedrock for all your thinking that comes thereafter, you probably can't be reasoned out of A. Of course, Cy likes to make it appear as though his arguments are reasoned, that he has a reasoned position. But the evidence that it's not is that he will say that God is the Lord of his reasoning. And of course he would say of an unbeliever or even a former Christian that you were the Lord over your own reasoning, which I would hope would not be the case. Right? I hope that reason might be Lord over your reasoning. The whole idea is to sort of identify objective truths and hopefully set aside presuppositions and flawed thinking that you identify within yourself. And so, like I say, when it comes to the presuppositional apologetic, I think Cy's probably right. Whether God exists or not, if God is the Lord over your reasoning, then you can't really be reasoned out of that position, because really what he's doing is he's making a statement. He's demonstrating his undying commitment to a statement of a declaration of fact, whether or not it is fact, and he's wholly committed to that. So while it might be true to say if God is Lord over your reasoning, you can't be reasoned out of Christianity, the error in that statement is that that's not reasoning. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening.